Like this is how much of the total string is actually using. Like see people chasing and you do like almost a third of the string. And you have to look at the cat on there. He's not that slow. It might have a lot of tension and no compression or whatever. The idea then is for the kids to
Folks, if you don't have it at your station, go partner up with somebody that does.
See how it says solid bar?
Okay, hold on
You
here.
can change it to solid bars.
Okay, so you're going to have to get to it
You can
this way.
change the size of the
Start.
Now this is actually perfect to do, but if you make them really small, you can change to other materials that are higher and it comes still louder. So the idea is to get it.
See how easy it is to load?
But to get like
Yeah, look how easy this is.
Alright.
It's much easier than this to load.
highlight the whole entire thing. Just click on here and drag.
Okay, there we go.
Just click and drag.
You guys can put it
The entire thing.
Now, once you get, the difference between 2007 and 2011, right, is that not a whole lot in the software, but this program is based on both technical considerations for engineering and also on something that's important in any real-life engineering project, and that's cost. And so what they do is they upload or they update the costs every year, okay, which is why 2011 is going to, it's not going to look much different than 2007, but it's in 2011 dollars versus 2007 dollars. Okay? I like this software because I have used it with 8th graders. I used to be a Brownie leader when my daughter was little, and when I say 8th graders, I mean 8-year-olds. I've had 8-year-olds run this software. I have had college freshmen run this software. Okay? And it is the only lab I've ever done with my college freshmen where at the end of the lab time, I had to kick them out of lab. Okay? That normally, they're right out. That when they want to stay and they like to play with the software. You can work it with you know, the computer modeling and then let them do hands-on building. When we run our summer camp here, we'll have them spend maybe an hour and a half here in the computer lab modeling with the West Point Bridge Designer software, and then we move them over into our project lab and let them build truss bridges using Connect. We load test them for them. Yeah.
Because
that's fantastic. Yes.
And so and the software to pull both pieces together, they can see design aspects with the software. Okay, what's got to go on in the design office in planning and designing for a bridge, and then they can go into the lab and have the fun of building and testing. So there's all sorts of different ways to use it. There's a lot of layers in this stuff, and what's great about it is on the surface it's simple enough that literally an 8-year-old can model a bridge, load test it, have fun playing with the software, and then if you've got a more serious student really interested in this stuff, there are a lot of layers behind it where there's screens that explain the underlying theory so that a student who wants to learn more, there's a lot of meat to this software that they can dig as far into it as they want to. Okay. And you're not going to dig that far into it in, you know, let's say you run a 50-minute class. But if it sparks somebody's interest, it's free. They can go home, download it on their own computer system at home and play with it. And then there is the advantage that they run every spring a competition at the national level, and there's opportunities to win, you know, some sizable college scholarship money. You know, $5,000 isn't too bad. Winning a laptop isn't too bad. That kind of thing. For students to be successful at that level, they're probably going to need to be working with some sort of a mentor, and I would suggest teams of 2 work out better. Rare that we see a single student do well.
a Mac version or just?
There used to not be, but there is now. So when the website is up and running, and you can, like I said, Google Bridge Contest, or the website address is just bridgecontest.usma.edu. There is now a version available for Mac. Yes, that was one of the big drawbacks with this at first was, and the disconnect. We tend to use PCs. Okay, at most universities we're set up PC-based, and I know that so many of your schools will be Mac-based, but now it applies to both.
What was our website again?
It's probably in your book. Do not put a www in front of it because you're not going to get there with www. It's just bridgecontest.usma.edu. Okay? And at this point, we should all be to a screen that looks like this. Are we good on that? Okay? And if you take a look, it tells you that they can load a sample bridge design. Take a look at it. We're going to go through and create a bridge design today. They can save and reopen an existing file that they've worked on. Noisy out there. Here's the design tip we see here. When you use the West Point Bridge Designer, your objective, it's not just to design a truss bridge that can carry highway loads. Okay, certainly that is important. But what this drives home is that's not the only thing that's involved here, but cost. We are also looking at cost as well, and we want to make sure we pass the load test with no member failures. And you'll notice here there is an about. You'll find abouts on a lot of these screens if they want more information. Something catches their attention and they want to learn more about it, you hit the abouts and it's going to give you background information on a lot of this. So I'm going to hit OK, and it brings us to our first screen, and this is our setup wizard, so we'll go through this. Again, we see the design tips over here. It tells them that they think of themselves as a civil engineer working for the State Department of Transportation. They're responsible for designing a truss bridge. And usually when I use this, we'll get into the discussion of, well, truss bridges aren't the more modern technologies, but the reason that this is set up for truss bridges is because of the underlying structural mechanics behind all of this. A truss bridge is easy to model and design on the computer. We'll talk a little bit about truss bridges. Okay, and then we'll get into discussions about other bridge forms like, suspension bridges, cable stayed bridges, arch bridges, take it as far as you want. And then I'll talk a little bit with them about terminology. Again, they'll find